When I picked poems to perform today, I was trying to think about what is required for change and what is required for peace. And one of the big things I think is collaboration, which is why an event like this is beautiful. I brought two poems with me that are both the product of collaboration with musicians here in Calgary. But they also address other things that we need in order to change. Adam and Eve in the first accounts are created in tandem. Male and female, God created them. There was no mention of ribs. There was one who was equally split into two and placed in a garden with an orchard of temptation. See, Eve is hungry, but filling it in all the wrong ways, because whatever the story says, knowledge doesn't grow on trees. Serpent says otherwise, with a glinting snake eye, sleight of handless. And she believes him because she feels in her gnawing belly that there must be something more than figs and paradise and lush perfection. The flowers burst into song. The paths are turning tongues of velvet. Every physical need is met readily, but she is so hungry in her head. And in a frenzy of soul starvation, she falls for the snake charm, anoints herself with snake oils, and bites the forbidden apple. Adam seizes the fruit, and he tastes it too, because he is also ravenous. And suddenly they know shame and solitude, solidarity and sensuality. They know that the eyes of their heavens see their failings clearly, and they learn fear and armor themselves in leaves. He blames her and blames his God for making her. Though he ate freely and let the juice run down his chin, she blames the snake. Though she chose to embrace the lies when her instincts told her otherwise, curdling in her stomach. Now, the snake is branded base, left to lick dust and roll belly through dirt, marked as lowest of low, the thief of innocence. And man and woman are cast into the wilderness, barred from the garden of perfection for the sins of gratitude or absent gratitude and greed, for craving adventure and questioning authority, adolescence defying the strictures of an all-seeing parent. Humans actually take scores and centuries to mature. So they are disciplined, cursed with endless work and painful birth for he and she, and sometimes he still blames her. And sometimes she thinks maybe he is the snake. But they are too busy to be hungry, planting apple trees, chasing deer, buns and ovens and all that. Children and children of children, time glows spinning through the sky. Now, some have no fruit and they are always hungry, while others have bushels of produce pinning them to the earth, but they are hungry too. Perhaps our true punishment is to never be satisfied one way or another, to have the same hints of poison in our core as the apple of insight, to fruitlessly soothe the appetites of the soul with the choking comforts of possessions, to starve body or to starve mind, depending on where the apple falls. This is how we evade Eden, because our eyes are too clouded to glimpse horizons. If we come across our lost garden, we might seed it with landmines in a battle for ownership. We might clear-cut the apple trees and drill for nectar. We might build a chain-link fence and charge admission, velvet-tongue paths littered with serviettes and cigarette butts. We might decide that even paradise isn't good enough, because there's idyllic pastures, but no convenience stores. We can't find our garden because unless we have nothing, we always want more. Maybe someday we'll be ready to relinquish the apple in exchange for the world. But the world rolls on regardless. While man blames woman, woman blames snake. Snake simply adjusts and slithers through turned soil. And sun continues to rise as everyone waits for the real harvest. And I ask myself, what am I really hungry for? Time? 2? Okay. All right, this other one is, I did a myth concert that was all based on myths and fairy tales, and this one was referential of The Emperor's New Clothes, and also applies to change. When he stepped out into the courtyard, was the naked emperor still wearing his gilded circlet, or was it made invisible along with his vain garments? How much of such a man is his, and how much is his office? If he were a chimney sweep or a cab driver or a cabbage merchant, would shiny vanities still circle his brow? He might wear a rough headdress of humility instead. His clothes would be woven from sturdy canvas, as invisible fabric is expensive. The shallow emperor removes his crown to eat, to sleep, to practice with his scepter and his sword. And he, like we, swaps hats routinely. Helmet, baby bonnet, dunce cap, jester's bell, wizard's cap, mortarboard, magician's top, balaclava, poor boy, skull cap. And each is a coronet of a station. And denying our hat is headgear of its own, as the crown is part of the head. Only those unworthy of their stations would fail to see the emperor's new clothes, and the story says that a child who wore the crown of youth and clear vision and who had no job, no identity beyond her own, she saw the emperor naked. And it didn't mention that the child also turned around and saw that everyone else was naked as well, because they all had their own prides and sometimes pulled their hats down over their eyes, and they were no more and no less than an emperor, because everyone is queen, king, emperor in their own universe, and everyone falls for glamours that are really phantom, and I shouldn't feel nervous, because my audience is naked royalty along with me. Do you like my new clothes? Thank you.